cooked out of the fish, and they use those as a sauce over the fish. But that's not the kind of fish boil we're going to do. The kind we're going to do came in the latter half of the 19th century when Scandinavian immigrants moved into this area. And they had a long tradition of fish boils, and they brought that with them. When they got here, all they had to modify was the kind of fish. And whitefish became generally the one used in the fish boil. Sometimes trout, lake trout, but mostly the lake whitefish. So that's the kind of fish boil we're going to do tonight. And it's done in stages. So the first stage, of course, is water boiling vigorously. We've got that. Then we're going to add quite a bit of salt, 2, 3, 4 pounds of hard kosher salt, for several reasons. Obviously, salt flavors, we know that. But it also has chemical reactions that are important. It allows you to kind of superheat the water, and that's important for the boil over. And the salt also reacts chemically with the oils that are going to cook out the fish. And that makes it possible at the end to have the boil over that cleanses the fish, runs all the oils out over the side. Stages. First stage, first 2 stages are vegetable stages. So typically, the classic Scandinavian fish boil would have as the first stage medium-sized red potatoes, grown widely here in Door County. So we start with that, and then those will cook barely for a while, and then we'll add some nice yellow onions into the mix, and they'll cook along for a while. Salt has now entered the picture. Welcome, welcome. Grab a seat wherever you like, and feel free to move if the smoke doesn't treat you kindly. And a basket of red potatoes has now gone in. So, as I said, the yellow onions will be the next stage after these cook, and then the final stage, the pièce de résistance of the fish boil, is the lake whitefish. Big chunks of it, cut up in big thick chunks. It'll go in. Now, it'll be in a smaller basket than this one in diameter, so it can sit down inside this one without mixing with the vegetables. Then it'll cook in the last stage. And then at the very end, the dramatic thing, the reason people bring their cameras, is at the end we will take kerosene and throw it onto the fire. Not as someone asked me once, you put that on the fish? Kerosene onto the fire. There'll be a dramatic flare up, and then there's a little delay, and after that, the water rises up, boils over, all the oils go off the side and cleanse the fish. So you're left with a wonderful meal of fish and vegetables, and all you have to do is add lovely Wisconsin melted butter. Now, as far as the history of the fish boil in Door County, for the first half of the 20th century, the only people lucky enough to have the fish boils were locals, mostly Scandinavian descent. But in 1960, a couple of restaurant owners in the area noticed that visitors coming in would ask questions of what is this fish boil thing, and how is it done, and what does it taste like, is it good, and so forth. So they decided maybe they should add it to the menu. So they did. They added one fish boil to the menu for the whole season. So that if you were a tourist coming in then, you had to plan very carefully to get your fish boil. Well, it wasn't long until it was a big hit, and so they started having it all the time. I checked this season, and we now have 9 restaurants this year doing fish boils. So virtually any night of the week, you can get a fish boil. Now I can tell from looking at you that this is a smart group, and that you have managed to track down the best fish boil in all of Door County. It's the only fish boil in Door County that comes with a storyteller. That's pretty good. And it's the only fish boil in Door County that has a full buffet in addition to the fish boil. So you're going to be well fed. That's the important thing, right? You're going to be well fed this evening. So for generations, there have been 4 or 5 families up in Gills Rock, the little village right at the tip of the peninsula, that have been commercial fishermen. And they get up about 4 in the morning, and take off out into Green Bay and fish through the morning. They net the whitefish, bring it in. If you're up that way around noon, a lot of times you'll see the boats coming in, cleaning the fish and selling them that day fresh to local restaurants like the one here and to local residents. Now, the whitefish is a mild tasting fish. It's about 13, 14 inches long typically, 4 pounds, maybe 5. I think the record in the Great Lakes is 15 pounds. It's in the salmon family. So we were talking about the oils out of it. It is an oily fish, so it's in that same family. In fact, if you want to go back and really impress someone, why you'd want to do this, I don't know, but maybe, really impress someone with your trip, you can tell them that you came to Door County and that you dined on the exotic Correginus clubiiformis. That's the scientific name for the lake whitefish that we have right here. It's plentiful in these waters, and the range of the fish sort of goes straight up north, goes all the way across the very tip of Canada, and then all around Alaska. So that's generally where you can find this kind of whitefish. Okay, but I promised to tell you stories about the whole history of this place. So let's go a little way back in history. Say, how about 20,000 years? What do you think? 20,000 years ago was in the last ice age. And so we had the glacier making its merry but slow way coming south, heading right toward good old Door County, which wasn't Door County then, of course. Coming down, and waiting for it here was a massive limestone ledge. Starts down below Green Bay, comes all the way up the coast, goes over to Washington Island, under it, goes up to the upper peninsula of Michigan, and then a grand arc goes all the way over and ends at Niagara Falls. And it's called, because of that, the Niagara Escarpment. Okay, so it was sitting here just waiting, minding its business. The glacier comes down and they have a big battle, and the glacier loses. The glacier had to split into 2 lobes, and our beloved Door County survived because of that. It went right around, leaving the escarpment, and on one side it scooped out Green Bay, and on the other side it scooped out Lake Michigan. Now, as it turns out, the escarpment rock, it was a dolomite, a limestone rock, was harder than the rock, the more sandstone-like rock on the lakeside. So over centuries, there was this erosion that created slopes from the warmer waters of the bay to the cooler waters of Lake Michigan. Geologists call these cuestas. And some of these cuestas were deep enough that water flowed through those, and we had these ancient rivers going across the peninsula. Why do we care about ancient rivers going across the peninsula? It's because they scooped out the bays. Now all of those rivers are gone now, except for one, and it's still here, and that's Mink River. The Mink River is right over there. It's right around. I can look over these shorter trees right here. The trees in the distance, a little point there. The other side of that is the mouth into Mink River. And it still starts over in Ellison Bay on the Green Bay side and flows 3 or 4 miles over and then empties into Rowleys Bay into Lake Michigan. So it's still there. So that's why we have this beautiful bay that we're looking at right now at all. It's because the flow of those rivers cleared those bays out. In fact, I think it's interesting if you get out a map, the current map, and look at the peninsula, and you look at all these little towns that people, little fishing villages in Door County, Fish Creek and Ephraim and Sister Bay and Ellison Bay and so forth. Each one sits on its own little bay. But if you look across the map and down diagonally, you'll notice there's a corresponding bay on the other side for each one. And that's because that's the direction of the flow of those original rivers. So the evidence is still pretty much there, and we're thankful for it because it gave us all of those bays and a lot of other bays. out in the bay and you look back up at the bluffs and you see these gnarly little cedar trees, just ugly looking things clinging for dear life up in the crevices on the bluffs out there. Some of those are over 1,200 years old. Some of the oldest trees in all of eastern North America. Interestingly enough, the same cedar trees, like there's one right over there, just eastern white cedar, the same ones growing in a better environment can only live to be 300 and 400 at the most. But the little guys out there fighting have managed to survive for over 1,200 years. Okay, now let's go to a time when we begin to get a little history recorded because we have European settlers coming in and encountering the natives here and recording some of that history. So let's go to 1660. In 1660, a tribe of Indians, the Potawatomi, who had been forced to move from Michigan over to what is now Wisconsin, and were about 300 or 400 miles south of here. They were hunter-gatherers. They stayed in a place as long as their food was there, and then they packed up and moved. Well, in 1660, food was getting scarce, and the Potawatomi chief said to some of his braves that he wanted them to go look for a new place for them to move, where there would be more food. They went off, and they were gone for months, and then they came back and said, "We think we found a place further north." So the elders discussed it and decided that they would take a risk on this and move. So they moved, got all of their supplies, all their materials into the canoes, and started paddling up what we now know as the Fox River. Came all the way up the Fox to what is now Green Bay, into the Bay of Green Bay. Didn't stop there, kept coming right on up to the tip of the peninsula, to the top, and you know there's a little strip of water goes across the top that separates the peninsula from the Traverse Islands, from Washington and Pilot and Detroit, one's immediately right in that area. And you may know the name of that place as well, huh? Death's Door. Death's Door. It was translated from the Algonquin, and it was named that by the Potawatomi because so many lives were lost there in violent storms. In fact, the most notable one is where they were fighting with the Winnebagos, now what we now know as the Ho-Chunk. They were having a battle not too far from Gill's Rock. And in the middle of the battle, the storm came up and swamped the canoes from both sides, and there were 500 or 600 warriors lost in that single storm there. And of course, shipwrecks since then. So it's well earned its name, Death's Door. I think it's going to stick with it. Of course, that's how we got door for door king. So anyway, this time, however, they didn't encounter those kind of storms. They went up, crossed through the Death's Door, that strait, came down this side, paddled right into Rowleys Bay, paddled through Rowleys Bay, paddled up into Mink River, and they saw there exactly what they were looking for. And that was wild rice. Amazing beds of wild rice in the Mink Estuary. And that told them a couple things right away. That is, this would immediately take care of their food supply for a while. They knew that, so at least they were safe for a while here. But it also said a very fertile area, and probably other things to eat in this area as well. But being logical people, they checked the other things too. They checked out the hunting, and it was good. And they checked out the fishing, and it was remarkable. So the Potawatomi decided they would make this their new home and stay here as long as they could, as long as the food supply would last. As it turns out, historically, they were able to stay here for another century until they were forced by the U.S. government out here. We'll talk a little about that later. So they settled in. But we know historically that they were destined, the path of the Potawatomi was destined to intersect with the path of a well-educated French Jesuit priest by the name of Père Louis André. And Father André came into Canada in 1669, joined up with another Jesuit priest there by the name of Claude Jean Allouet. They came down and built a mission in the Green Bay area, De Pere actually. The reason it's called De Pere is because it was built on the what the French called the Rapids of the Fathers, because the Holy Fathers had the mission there. So the De Pere is stuck as the name. And then Father Andre decided that he was going to commit himself to evangelizing the Potawatomi, who were living in the peninsula, particularly in Rowleys Bay. And he devoted his life to that for more than a decade after that. That's important because he brought some things to the Potawatomi that helped them out in a great deal. First of all, he was willing to take the time to learn Algonquin. Most European settlers found Algonquin terribly difficult to learn. But he decided to master it, and he did. In fact, later he would go back to Canada and publish a dictionary, a French Algonquin dictionary that the fur trappers would use. But he taught the Potawatomi some techniques, agricultural techniques, which may be the reason they were able to survive here for a century. Because they plant crops and so forth, so they have that additional support. But he also did something that I find particularly remarkable, given the time period, especially maybe. He did scientific studies of the currents out in Rowleys Bay and out in Lake Michigan. And on the basis of that information, he advised the Potawatomi on how to improve their fishing, how to fish better, ways of fishing, when to fish, and how to navigate more safely out on Lake Michigan. The potatoes have gotten lonely.
And the big nigga messenger, because apparently this is the only place I have Wi-Fi.
So now they have buddies, they have onions, and so they're going to converse for a while we continue our studies. Father Andre had so many talents. He was also musically inclined, and he had these campfire events. And the Potawatomi children would dance and sing, and he would play the flute. And then he built something here that lasted for quite a while, that historians remember. In 1680, just that same little point over there, which at that time was an island. It's silted in since then, so it's attached to the peninsula. It was an island, and just around the other side of it, on the Mink River side, he built a huge cross. We know this from historical records. We also know it from archaeological evidence. It was 26 feet high. It had beams that were 9 inches hand-hewn square, held together with wooden pegs. It had a limestone foundation. It had limestone steps going from the water up to the cross, and they held worship services there. But it wasn't long until it became a maritime beacon, because this is all sort of on the diagonal here, and it being around the other side was important because it made a direct line of vision right out into Lake Michigan. So people who were navigating Lake Michigan would come up and they would see this cross. It was white, so it was quite visible. They would see this cross and it would say, safe harbor. Safe from treacherous waters, like death's door, safe from violent storms, and safe from warlike tribes. So it was there a long time. Of course, eventually the wood rotted, the cross was gone, the steps were there for quite a while, and then eventually they disappeared. But archaeologists from the University of Wisconsin did find the foundation. That's how we know, because a lot of people thought that it was going to be right on the tip. That would seem sort of logical, right? Right on the point there. It was actually around a little on the other side. Okay. This brings us now up to about the 1800s. And this is the best of all possible times, the 1800s. You might not think that, but this is where you get the story of Peter Rowley. You find out about me. Actually, my story begins earlier than that. One of my ancestors, Captain Edward Fuller, came over on the Mayflower. But I was born in New York in 1795. I am very well preserved, I think. 1970, 95. Grew up in Williamstown. Married a woman from New Hampshire, Alice Dustin. And we were living in Williamsburg, but the story of our life, and this is where I have to make some confessions it hurts me to make, but to understand my story, you'll have to know. We moved about every 2 or 3 years. My whole adult life. We'd go to a place, we'd buy a little farm, I'd clear some land, we'd stay there a couple of years. And then I'd look off and I'd see a campfire, I'd see smoke somewhere, realize that people were somewhere in the neighborhood. And I like being alone. You know, I like the wilderness. I like the privacy. I love my family. Alice and I had 4 children, 2 boys, 4 girls. Well, when it came to other people, I didn't like socializing a lot. I was just quite happy to be out there in the woods with just the family. And so, and I guess I was a kind of blunt speaking guy, but whatever. I got this reputation as a curmudgeon. And it caused me a great deal of pain, as you'll see as my story goes on. But anyway, we were there in Williamstown, moving every 2 or 3 years in that area. Then something happened in 1830 that indirectly affected me and my family. The U.S. Congress passed the Indian Removal Act, which required all Native Americans to live west of the Mississippi. It was a horrible and painful piece of legislation for Native Americans, but for European settlers, of course, it opened up new lands, new territories. And as someone who liked to move, when people got too close. In 1834, I told Alice, I said, let's go out there, let's see what's out there west of us. Well, we were living outside Cleveland at the time, and west of us was Green Bay. So we took a trip down to Green Bay. It was an awful trip, by the way. We got stuck in Mackinac, terrible winds, 3 days we were stuck there. Took a side-wheeler over to Detroit. We finally got there. We got to Green Bay, came up, and I bought 50 acres of land in the bay, what's now known as Sturgeon Bay. And amazingly, we were going to stay there for almost 5 years, longer than I stayed any place my entire life, there in Green Bay. If you know anything about that area, it's called Sherwood Point. It's a little point that comes out into the Green Bay. To be honest, it should be called Rowleys Point, because the first guy there was me. And then Peter Sherwood comes along and buys my farm after we leave, and then he gets the name for the place. It's just not fair. But anyway, so my oldest daughter, Mariette, she met this young guy from Scotland. He was there in that area fishing, and he wanted to become a commercial fisherman. Fell in love with him, married him in 1839. And I was kind of interested in commercial fishing too. So we talked about it and said, well, let's go find where the best fishing is and we'll get started. So, not realizing it, we really followed the path of the Potawatomi. We came up north, we came across Death's Door, got as far as what is now Rock Island. And Neil, that's my son-in-law's name, Neil and Mariette said, well, this looks pretty good here. Fishing looks great here. Let's settle. Well, I didn't really want to do that, so they stayed there, and Alice and the rest of the family, we all came down, and we came right into Rowleys Bay. And we saw this beautiful place, and the fishing, and we said, this is the place we could stay for years. Less than 2 years later, I was right out here, almost where you're sitting, right over there. And I looked over this direction, and I saw 2 hunters. And one of them waved and said, hey, how's the fishing around this area? And I said, well, it's not bad. I think it's pretty good. And he said, oh, I hear it's incredible a little further down the shore. Well, that was it. The next day, I told Alice, I said, I'm itching to go. Not only are people getting too close to us, I saw 2 yesterday, but I want to go where the good fishing is. So we headed on down to what is now called 2 Creeks. Headed down there, built a trading post there. A few years later, Mariette and Neil came down. We did commercial fishing. Things were going well. They even named a few things for us there. Rowleys Point and the Rowleys Point Lighthouse, tallest lighthouse in all the Great Lakes. So that was pretty good. 1859, that settlement where I built the trading post, they named it Rowley. Rowley. And I was so proud of that. And then 2 years later, 1861, they put forth a petition to change the name from Rowley to Two Creeks. And the reason they gave in the petition was because the name Rowley was obnoxious to all of the voters in the whole area. Once you get a reputation as a curmudgeon, it's hard to get away from it. So they changed the name. But the kind people of Door Canyon named Rowleys Bay after my family, and they never took that away. So we have a nice bay here named for me, and we have a nice resort here, and we have a pub up there with my pictures. All right. Well, that's more about Peter Rowley if you ever want to know what I really asked about. So let's move on. Let's go to the 1850s. In the 1850s, a logging company down in Racine sent some agents up here. And they came, like me and several others before me, and they stood right in this area. They were looking for timberland. They looked to the southwest, right over what's now that building there. And they saw this impressive grove of cedar trees. Now, if you've been around Door County very much, you can see these cedars along the side of the road everywhere. You will say to yourself, the word impressive and the word cedar don't go together in the same sentence. But in fact, these were old growth cedars. I mean diameter of 3-4 feet, circumference of 20-25 feet, 300-400-year-old trees. So they bought this land, they bought those groves, and they started logging here. First thing they did was build a dock, and then they started shipping out boatloads and boatloads and boatloads of those cedars. Well, friends, the chunks of whitefish have arrived, and they're going to join the happy crew, and we'll let them look along. So the logging was really going well. Now let's just skip a little ahead, another decade, 1860s. A man by the name of Samuel Ashbel Rogers. He went by S.A. I think I would have too, probably. But S.A. Rogers. He came up here, he saw the activity, and he was interested in the logging, but he said, oh, they're missing out. So much more could be done here in terms of business. So he bought into the Cogswell Corporation logging, and he started right away to build a trading post here, major trading post. So it had rooms for him, it had a grocery section, it had a hardware section, it even had medical office. And that's only because his retired father-in-law was a doctor. So he was able to provide that, which is pretty remarkable for Rowleys Bay. And then he added things like an ice house and a cider mill, a shingle mill, sawmill. And because of those, workers started coming in the area, and of course bringing their families with them. And Rowleys Bay was going to be on the map. Things were moving. Population was increasing. And one of his friends said, well, why don't we all chip some money in, and we'll just build a nice town right here, lovely, right on Lake Michigan. And so he thought that was a good idea. Now in the 1890s, the standard way of doing that was to hire an artist, get the artist to draw a lovely picture of how the development is going to look when it's all done, what the town would look like, print it out on nice parchment paper and send it out to try to get investors. So that's what he did. He went down to Sturgeon Bay, he hired an artist. The artist came up here, drew out a city right over there in Newport Park. And the city was about a mile long and 3/4 wide. Nice, lovely, square, laid-off streets with patriotic names like Potomac and Columbia. You could see in the picture horse-drawn carriages going up and down the streets. You could see children on roller skates, you know, enjoying themselves, playing around in the streets. You could see the schools. You could see the shopping areas. You could see a church there. You could see a wonderfully big hotel right out on the lake. And you could see a grand public beach out there. Now, if that wasn't enough, he conned the artist into adding one more thing. Where a nice little Mink River kind of trickles into Rowleys Bay, he drew in a big cascading waterfall. down into the bay. So they printed this up. Now they have to decide what they're going to call this town. So he suggested Deedless Hope. And his friend said, who's going to invest in a place called Deedless Hope? So he said, how about Hansonville? Hansonville, wouldn't that be good? He was just determined to get his name on it. They said, no. He said, well, so they finally, as a group, settled on Tacoma Beach. So it became the Tacoma Beach Project. And so they set things out, and money started pouring in. Sight unseen. People saw it. How could you go wrong with a beautiful town like that sitting right out there of miles of beautiful beach right on the Lake Michigan? So they invested their money into it, and then about a year and a half in, D.L. Hansen was smart enough to sell it to somebody else and get out. And the poor guy who bought it got stuck with it because about 2 years in, some of the investors said, I haven't heard a thing about our investment. I wonder how much they built there. What's going on? I think we better go down and check it out. So they came over here. They went out. They looked, hiked over to Mink River, and then they looked out and they saw there swamp, and nothing but swamp. There wasn't a thing. They hadn't done anything. They hadn't built anything, of course. And so it all fell through, and it was the biggest real estate scam in the history of Door County. It cost the county quite a bit of money, and a lot of investors lost a great deal in that enterprise. Well, that brings us to the 20th century, and all of that great excitement in the 19th century is now gone, and Door County went back to a quiet little place. Fishermen came, hunters came, occasional sightseer just to enjoy the natural beauty of the place, but not much going on until 1947. And a retired jeweler by the name of Lou Casagrande from Milwaukee came up here. He looked at the area and he said to himself, one word, tourists. And he built the Rowleys Resort Inn right here. Turned out he might have been a great jeweler, but he wasn't really a good resort manager. Things didn't go well, but he kept the business alive for a good while, but then it sold and it changed hands. And that brings us to 1970, and the Peterson family, Leonard Dallas, living about 8 miles over towards Sister Bay. And they had been kind of eyeing this place. They thought it was lovely over here, but it was big, and they thought they probably couldn't afford it. But it kept selling. People would buy it. They didn't want to do the work. It was a rundown fishing camp at that point. But they had about given up on it, and then Alice came over one day with her daughter Miriam to see if they could rent one of the buildings for a church event. And the owner said, sure, I'll rent you the building. I'll sell you the whole place. So she got on the phone, she called up Leonard and said, look, are we going to dream about this forever, or are we going to do something? And so they decided to do something. They took all the money they had in the bank, really, which was $100. They put $100 in earnest money. They got family members to help them out, and they found a sympathetic banker and got a loan and took over the place. And believe me, what they took over was a lot of problems. If you read Leonard's book, which is available for purchasing, you'll see the kind of problems that he had getting everything straightened out. But slowly converted it into the kind of resort facility that we have today, and the one that still respects what's important here, and that is the beauty of the nature here, the water activities, the kind of exploration and natural history that we have represented in Door County. So that's kind of quick history from the glaciers all the way through to the Peterson family. Whether you met her yet or not, but Jula Radnick is the daughter of Leonard Peterson, so it's still in the Peterson family. Still run by them. How are we doing?
We're good to go.
Good to go. Is this good timing or what? All right.
For safety reasons, everybody needs to get up and...
Yes. This is quite a flare-up with enough of heat, so make sure you're back up on the sidewalk, up on the patio. Get your cameras ready if you want to get photographing fire is one of your big things. All right, here we go. those oils are cleansing over the side. And now you have to add just one thing to make it perfect, and that's melted Wisconsin butter. You're in business. And off it goes inside to the buffet to wait for you.
Now I have one question.
Yes.
Now that's great. Now what is these other people going to eat?
I think you better